The valuing part is what has been, I think, essential to what resonated with me. And now I'm hearing that I'm not the only one that feels valuing at this time in a new and profound way. And I think that and using Dolores's comment about taking life for granted, it snaps me out of taking life for granted. It's like, well, wait a minute, what is valuable? And all that's taking place, there's massive shifts taking place in values during this time, probably more so than any other moment in my life. And we often hear people say, oh, well, this is the time, this is the moment, this is the time, and this is the moment. And of course it is the time and the moment, because as a person awakens to this, the crest of the wave that their life is riding, every moment is to a certain extent pivotal. But there are moments that have greater weight and greater importance than others. At least how I value that weight and that importance matters. That changes, right? But in the collective, in the thinking of the world around us, in the culture and the customs, many people are now being awakened to what's truly valuable and what things are not so valuable. And it could be just an evolutionary process too. What was once valuable to me or important to me is no longer valuable. And things that I didn't really pay much attention to, or maybe enough attention to, I now pay a lot more attention to those things. So they are now more valuable to me. So as our process individually and then collectively is an expansion of consciousness, is an upward spiral of something that is good and better. It is a natural thing. It's a natural part of that process to reevaluate. And each time I reevaluate, and I'm hoping, I'm guessing, I'm intending this to be true for you, each time I reevaluate, it gets me closer to my essence, that love inside of me, that goodness inside of me, that godness that surrounds me. It gets me closer to that and releases anything that is different than that, anything that is a potential obstacle or barrier to that, anything that's a wall around that. So thank you all for, really digging in, going deep on our vision and mission as we do every Sunday. So thank you for that. So in continuing with our message and our themes, the CSL theme for the year is Spiritual Vision 2020. That is, it is what it is now. And June's themes are called Mindfulness for Mavericks. And this week's theme is called Mindful Intentions, which I had mindlessly made into mindfulness intentions. And then I cycled back to, yeah, it is mindfulness intentions. At least it is for me. And what came up in our ecclesiastical team has been in discussion about this over the course of the last several weeks. But we are in the season of Juneteenth, and it is typically acknowledged on June 19th, which is this coming Friday. And it's also known as Freedom Day or Jubilee Day or Celebration Day is one of them. And it commemorates the June 19th date comes from commemorating a specific event in the emancipation, the freedom from slavery in the United States. And this is when a particular general read a federal order in Galveston, Texas, that freed all of the slaves in the state of Texas, technically. And this occurred actually in 1865, which was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was ordered and implemented. So that is, you know, it sounded, in history, it sounds like it was a switch that got flicked in 1862. But it wasn't until 1865 that this made its way to probably distantly the remotest slave state at the time, which was Texas. And what is happening around us right now is that we're still in a liberation process as a country and a culture. And really it's resonating around the world that we are in a process to what the Centers for Spiritual Living calls creating a world that works for everyone. And it is creating a world of liberty, equality, and justice for all. So when we say in our vision and mission statement, by valuing and empowering all means all, and all is all that all means, or something along those lines, Reverend Sunshine. But I have a slide for this, just in case anybody, and I'm paraphrasing Dr. Martin Luther King here. So please, I will beg your forgiveness in advance. I envision a world in which people are not judged by the color of their skin, but are valued for the content of their character. So just think about that for a minute, that we value and empower all. Therefore, we are releasing any kind of a judgment, any kind of an assessment, any kind of an opinion that we might have about others. And by the way, that judgment or opinion or assessment really is something about us and our character. It really has nothing to do with anyone else. So it is something that each of us gets to own on a certain level, gets to accept as a growing edge for oneself. But imagine that world where everyone is valued based on the content of their character. And in the science of mind and spirit, we know, I know, you know that character to be an indwelling God and a surrounding God that is a universal good, that is accessible, expressed, experienced, circulated, and connected by everyone to the degree that they are willing and able to have that consciousness, to grow that consciousness, to evolve into that consciousness. So to replace by valued for the content of their character, we can simply just value everybody for the light of love that they are within. We can just skip straight to that. And this becomes the essence of the namaste sentiment or greeting. The God in me salutes the God in you. The God in me connects to the God in you. The heart of me connects to the heart in you. The best and the brightest of me connects to the best and the brightest in you. And it is a transparent sentiment. It is a transparent essence. It's not blinded or distracted by appearances in any way. It gets straight to the heart. And that's what our teaching does individually and collectively. So how do you feel about that principle or those ideas? Does anybody have any comments or resonate with that in any way? And again, just unmute yourselves and we'll try to catch up to you that way, or do the hand wave, or use the raise hand or the thumbs up or something. Wow, I guess everyone's feeling complete with that. Gary's feeling complete. Did you have a comment, Gary?
I'm Gene.
No,
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
Oh, go ahead, Gene.
yeah, go ahead.
Are you sure, Gary?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm Gene. I have a comment. It's amazing to, for the first time, hear spoken what I'm feeling. Um, I appreciate that in each one of you guys that are here, because it's the first time I've heard clearly spoken what I feel on the inside. And for a while there, for the last few days, I thought I was going crazy, and realizing that nope, this is actually a beautiful thing. So I appreciate you being here today on Sunday morning. That's what I have.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you too, Gene. Thank you for being here. Gary, did you have something?
You know, I was just resonating with just our whole theme of mindfulness, you know, because so often, you know, we have a tendency to live either in the future or in the past, and we sort of forget that the present moment is really all we have. And that requires mindfulness, being conscious that this is it right now. And that future hasn't happened yet, past is back there somewhere, and this is it. And so I'm just very appreciative for that whole idea.
Well, thank you for that. Bertha, go ahead, unmute yourself.
I want to thank Jean for reminding me what it was like the first time I walked into a spiritual center. It was just an exhale of I am home. Thank you. I just wanted to thank him for that gift I received on that day, and 30 years later, still receiving it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wonderful.
And I just appreciate bringing in, you know, Juneteenth, because there's no accidents. You know, there's like you said, it's, you know, our spiritual evolution is indeed an upward spiral. And so if we could actually look, you know, the more and more I look, and I kind of, without blame, without shame, but just recognize that in the upward spiral, we keep hitting the same situations over and over again, but yet, because it's an upward spiral of our spiritual evolution, there with a little more clarity and understanding and growth and unfoldment. So it might be the same deal around racism or sexism or finances. You know, it could be personal, you know, finances or career or relationship, except that because I keep coming back to these spiritual communities, to my spiritual practices, to being open to really know our oneness. When it comes back around and I hit that quote unquote, I'll call it problem area, that it is now with a little bit more of an elevated consciousness. And so there's still work to be done. There's still work to be done, but it is an upward spiral. And so that's the joy in what's happening as well, that even though, you know, 200 years later, we're still dealing with Emancipation Proclamation and Freedom Day, and, you know, and really, you know, people are taking it to the streets, that, you know, for me, taking it to the streets of my own heart, like, how is it that I'm outraged about my own spiritual growth and unfoldment? And what am I no longer willing to put up with, you know, spiritually, as I do this, you know, with mindful intention. So it really is all interconnected, and I just appreciate, you know, you bringing that to center, especially now. So thank you for that, Reverend Kevin.
You're very welcome, and thank you to our entire E-team, because we have been in prayer and discussion about this as it has unfolded, and we continue to be. And you know, Gary raised an interesting point. It was actually part of what I was preparing for you today, is dealing with the past, the present, and the future. And you know, there is this life we live in this moment. that moment is in part the sum total of all the experiences, expressions that have occurred in our lives up to this point. And that moment is also pulling us to what we intend or what we expect or what we plan in the future. And the best word to describe this mindfulness of the moment, so to speak, is to set an intention, which is part of our overall message this week, of integration. In other words, I want to consciously integrate the lessons of the past. I want to integrate the love, the good, the God that is coming up in the past. But I want to concentrate and integrate that into this moment for the best possible way, the highest expression, the most loving experience, the most compassionate response I can have in this moment. And at the same time, I have to know that this moment is moving. It is dynamic, as I am dynamic. I am constantly changing in some way. And therefore, being mindful of this forward motion, this upward spiral, this growth in consciousness, then I am integrating that thing that seems to come up next, that now is now. So if your tendency in thinking is toward the future, I'm not this person, but I'm aware of other people, that there are folks that constantly plan and they live in the plan, right? So they're living in the what next, missing what's now. And there are people that, and I'm probably tending more in this direction, true confession here, that live a little bit more in the past, meaning I'm overly influenced by what just happened. I'm reacting to something that's already gone rather than being in this present moment. Now I'm dragging that previous experience into the present moment. That's not really integration. What integration would be is, oh, I acknowledge that from the past. It has served a good purpose. I'm trying to glean what that good purpose is. Sometimes that's a struggle. Sometimes that comes pretty easily. In other words, if I have a positive experience in the past, it's very easy for me to integrate that positive experience into this moment. If I have a negative experience from the past, it's a challenge to release it and not bring that into this moment, right? And people who are planners can do the same thing. They can anticipate something negative and drag that in, in the future back into this present moment. Somebody has an aversion to going to the dentist, so they have a dentist appointment scheduled in the future, and they are dreading that dentist appointment in this moment again and again and again, rather than just setting that aside. When the dentist appointment occurs, they're just going to be present with what's happening in the dentist appointment. So it can happen either way. In neither of those two scenarios, dragging the negative from the past into the present and foretelling a negative future into the present, neither of those are integrating, meaning that is not the process of integration. So this brings us back to intention. And there are some semantics around this that I just want to speak to for a moment. And that is that when, in the science of mind speak, when we talk about intention, we are talking about expanding a quality or a feeling in our life, right? That is my intention, to feel better. That's a pretty simple intention, but I can put a finer point to it: to feel more love, to feel more joy, to feel more peace, to feel more compassion. I set those intentions, and I set those intentions mindfully and consciously as often as if it comes to mind, right? How those intentions manifest, how they demonstrate in my life, that is subject to a lot of other factors, and I don't really have to dwell on how those things manifest. Now, oftentimes, to get to those feelings and qualities, a person will outline how those feelings are going to expand in their life. Well, this great new job, at that point, I will feel more love and peace and joy and abundance. Or this great new relationship or a new car. That's outlining. And it's the idea of the job or the relationship or the car that is pulling forth, that is evoking within you something that's already true about you. And that is that the love and life of living spirit is you. And as you bring that more into conscious awareness, then you bring that more into conscious expression, you bring that more into conscious experience. And at that point, whatever you've outlined may or may not manifest in your life, because what has already manifested in your life is a greater love, a greater joy, a greater abundance. So no matter how that outpictures in your life, that's subject to whatever. But if you hold firm to your intention, and that intention is for more good, for more God to express, experience, circulate, and connect in your life, that's what's happening for you in this moment right now. And therefore, moment to moment, those things that are in alignment, that are in resonance with more love, more peace, more joy, more health and well-being, naturally unfold in your life, seemingly without any extra effort or concentration, right? It isn't magic, but it is a natural part of the creative process that we believe and practice in the science of mind teaching. Now, the way one focuses that, breaks that down into something that is a daily thing, is through spiritual practice, as Reverend Sunshine mentioned earlier. That means as you meditate, as you affirm, as you treat, as you journal, as you study, as you vision, this is the natural consequence of an intention manifesting as a greater love, peace, joy, health, well-being, prosperity, connection, order, balance, clarity, intelligence, creativity, fulfillment, liberation, freedom, all these qualities of God that are already so about you, already within you. As you practice those things day by day, that is what is expanding in your consciousness and is filling your body, your being, everything with that love and light of living spirit. So how do folks feel about that aspect of intention in the science of mind teaching, and how that might differ from planning or goals or objectives or anything along those lines? All right. So the last little piece, anybody? All right. I had one other thing I wanted to share with you today. And this kind of loops back to Juneteenth a little bit. I mentioned that the date, June 19th, 1865, is recognized as that date. And that was some 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation was legally questionable. It was technically a legitimate executive order, and it was technically a legitimate commander-in-chief order. But the power of its intention far exceeded the way in which the actual proclamation got rolled out, got executed. And what it did is it changed the intention of the fortunes of the conflict, of the war that was taking place. What does that mean? Well, what it did is it simplified and focused what the conflict was about, and that was slavery. It was the abolition, the elimination of slavery. And so from the highest commander to the lowest foot soldier, everyone in the Confederacy knew what they were fighting to defend was something unfair and unjust. And everyone in the Union, from the highest commander to the lowest foot soldier, knew that they were fighting for something more just and more equal, which was the end of slavery. And at that time, that's when the fortunes of that conflict shifted. From that time forward, the momentum swung toward, the arc of justice bent toward truth, right? And it's still it's still bending in that direction as we know today, but we are much further along on the arc. But know that that power of that intention, and I think Lincoln was in many ways a metaphysician. I think by his writings we can tell that, or at least I can tell, he was influenced a lot by the same thinkers, philosophers, teachings that were now coming into Western circles. Those Eastern teachings that were infusing and inspiring people like Emerson and Thoreau. So that intention that you set is immensely powerful. It sets in motion in you that power, that presence, that intelligence, that compassion, that understanding that is hard to explain, maybe not even explainable in actual words, but it is certainly felt and resonant within all beings. So I think the key is to be integrative of where you have come and where we have come, and to intend for that future to be as expansive, to be as inclusive, to be as connective, to be as compassionate, to be as loving as it possibly can. So that universal good, as you set that intention, what you're doing is allowing the universe to conspire and converge for your highest expression, right? You're allowing the universal presence that is within you to explore dimensions of your goodness, of your godness in ever increasing ways. So with that, I just invite you to turn your attention inward and just call to conscious awareness a presence, a power, a love, a compassion that exceeds all understanding, an intelligence that you know by your intelligence, and through that intelligence, you know all there is to know. A love that is universal, that is the love within you, that expresses and experiences magnificently and fully. And know that that is God, and that God, that presence, that universal good, indwells, propels, and surrounds all that is. So it indwells and propels and surrounds me. It indwells and surrounds and propels you. That all beings everywhere, every person, place, and thing is an idea, an expression, an experience in the mind of God. It is a love and heart of God. That is who you and I are. That's what we are. That extension, that emanation of the great love, of the greatest intelligence. So I speak my word that we are mindful now of our intention, knowing our intention has creative power that right in this moment expresses, experiences, circulates more love, more joy, more peace, more good, more God. And as I include our family and our friends, I include our neighbors, I include all those around the world. Everybody is on that spiritual path, and I include them now in our prayer today. And I recognize those gathered by any means safely in mosques and temples and ashrams, that we are all blessed in our path, this journey of self-discovery, the self of God within. So I speak my word now, envisioning this connection, this opening, this valuing, this empowering, this transparency. I speak my words, seeing the love and light in me as the love and light in you, and the love and light of all beings everywhere. And I integrate that into this moment with all my heart and all my mind. And seeing that circulation of good in that upward spiral, I bless the world as I am blessed. You bless the world as you are blessed. And I give thanks for this answered prayer, for this communion in spirit, for this connection. And I release my word into the law of mind in action, knowing that as it is spoken, as it is intended, and therefore as it is felt, that love, that compassion, that joy, that peace, that health and well-being in person and in community, that is unfolding right now. That whole being of love in all, that's happening right now. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Kevin. Thank you so, so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks to all of you.